Good evening and welcome to another episode of Chainstitch Sessions. I'm Huckleberry Starnes from Huckmade.com, and we will be joined shortly by Adam from Aimless Arrow Embroidery. Let me shut this down. There we go. This is our bi-weekly live for business, chain stitch, sewing, your questions, tech tips, everything. So thanks so much for joining us, and we're also going to talk about the patch exchange. We are halfway through, although I have one additional slot open. So if anybody is still interested, let me know. We didn't, actually so busy today that I didn't post that the show was happening. So if you have any questions, we forgot to ask. So throw them up in the comments, and I'm sure Adam and I will get to them just as soon as we can. It seems like we always get a cascade right when we say nobody sent any questions. So anyway, good evening. Happy Monday. I hope everybody is not melting in this terrible heat like we are down here in Atlanta. And yeah, it's just been awful. So here comes Adam. Let's see if we can get him in here. Get the show started. And maybe. He's probably running in his shop per usual on Mondays. So we'll see if we can get him in here. And there we go. There he is, running in the shop as predicted.
Yes, of course. I had to zoom here as fast as I could from production. So, but we made it. So
that's good.
Yeah. And I'm not going hatless today. So
there we go.
Yeah.
Well, I was just saying that I was so crazy busy today that I forgot to even post the show promo or ask any questions.
Yes. Yeah, I did the same. Which I was like, oh, what's going on? What day is it?
And as an announcement for Labor Day, I will be flying back from my sister-in-law's house on Monday. So Adam and I will discuss how we're going to shift that show.
Yeah, we'll figure all that out. No big deal.
But we're halfway through the patch exchange.
Yeah, that's good. Good to know.
I was saying that I posted that I had one more slot and about 6 people signed up.
I love that.
So ironically, I still have one more slot.
Oh, wow. All right.
So if anybody's watching and they want to join and grab that last slot, you've got 2 weeks left. So just send me a message, either my personal or Chainstitch Sessions.
Perfect.
So, anyway, bud, how you doing tonight?
I'm good. Yeah, I just had a full day of fricking around, doing some little tune-up action, and messing around with my machine. So it was good.
Nice.
Yeah.
I've actually had Thursday. I finished up my last order.
Yeah.
And I kind of pushed some other stuff that's like indefinite off until the end of the week, and I've been building tables, reorganizing the shop. My daughter finally earned a bunny.
I saw that.
We went and got a bunny, and I've been dealing with that. I have to say, I'm not the kind of person I would ever expect to have that kind of animal in my house.
A lot of work.
He's really chill so far. I mean, we've had him for 3 or 4 days.
Yeah.
He's kind of like a lazy cat.
That's pretty. You just let him range, or you got a pen for him?
So he has a hutch in my daughter's room that's pretty big, and we get him out. And so far, he's been roaming around her room because he actually had fleas when we got him.
Mm-hmm.
And now that we've cleaned him up, he met the dog from inside a crate for the first time.
Yeah.
And yeah, we'll see what happens. So that's the big excitement in my world.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah, we did I think the only thing exciting lately is we did a big overhaul of the shop. So all the machines are out and now the only thing in here is just one Juki straight stitch machine for some like little stuff. If whoever's watching the shop needs to sew anything, it's here. But both my chain stitch machines are at production, and the darner is over there as well. Yeah, just not really. We needed more for like retail stuff, so it's big. A lot of stuff happening, and we just hired on two more people who can sew. So we've got some big projects happening. So that's pretty cool.
Cool.
So I think that's pretty much the only exciting stuff in my world as of right now.
So did you find that the sort of live stitching, having the machine in the store just wasn't worth the effort of just doing orders and not being interrupted?
Yeah, so I mean, it's good for watching the store, but when people do come in, if you're the only one here, you are going to get pestered, which is totally fine. And just like being at a market, people love seeing the machines, but the fact that the store itself is not like, I'm not going to market the store itself as like a chain stitch embroidery store. It's more of like a, home goods, clothing, everything, antiques, everything. It's just everything. It's an amalgamation of all these different things and interests and areas. But so I'm not going to spend the time to just, I guess, like maybe if I marketed it a little better, maybe people would care about the chain stitch aspect more than they do. It's just like markets where someone comes in, sees the chain stitch machine. Oh, what's that? They have like that. The kid-like curiosity there for a second if I'm working on something. Other than that, no one really gives a fuck, which is fine. But, having the thread wall and doing all this shit, it's just like, cool, let me just set up the same exact thing at production and just do it there and just make more space for retail and then just bring shit over here that I make. So we did that. We had an event on Saturday, and Alejandra, my apprentice, did some Western shirts that I had on ice. So that was really cool. And now the ones that didn't sell will just be here in the shop, and someone can come grab them.
Nice.
But yeah, it'll be more like that. We'll kind of have areas of the store like, oh, here's the chain stitch area, and we'll kind of like advertise that as such. And then that way, when the chain stitch machine is here in the shop, it'll be like a special occasion, and we can kind of like market it like that and be like, oh, hey, live chain stitching. We can kind of bring a little more awareness to it and then kind of pump it out. So
Great.
yeah, we'll see how it goes.
Moving on. I think you're moving on up, and I was going to say, I think you were searching for, you run a lifestyle center.
Yes. Yeah, correct.
Yeah. My super genius, international manufacturing wife knows all those words.
I love it.
My favorite is on trend.
Ah.
Yeah, something's very on trend.
Yeah. Not with me. I'm always behind the curve, so.
Yeah. Me too. I just get to sound fancy.
All right. Cool.
I had kind of a funny impromptu class in the shop Saturday. Somebody that I have worked with before that thought her console was defective, brought it into the shop, and I went in and gave her a class at request of the owner of the store.
Mm-hmm.
And then, usually people reach out to me with little follow-up questions. I don't ever expect anybody to take like a 60 or 90-minute chain stitch class and then retain all of it, which is why you and I both were always here. That's part of what we do when we're working with people. I didn't hear anything from her for a long time. And then she reached out to me Saturday morning and said that her Madeira was not working, her thread. It didn't look right.
Yeah.
Oh, and her machine wasn't running. So it turns out that the zip tie I had her put on the handle wasn't tight enough. And so it had loosened, and so the machine was disengaging. Also, she ordered 40 instead of 12. So I said, just come over. I'll give you some thread. I'll sell you a cone, whatever you need.
Yeah.
She said she was working on a project for her daughter.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, all right, that's cool. Like, I get it. We've all had those projects. We just want to wrap up on the weekend, and having to order thread sucks for like one cone.
Yeah.
Long story short, she shows up at my house with her console in hand. and said, "Can you just go ahead and like tune it up and show me again how it works?" Which was funny, and you know, it's fine, whatever.
Yeah.
And she kept mentioning her daughter. She's working on this thing for her daughter, and I was like, "All right, that's cool." And then she said, "Yeah, I got to have this outfit done because my daughter's going to wear it at the Kennedy Center." And I was like, "Who's your daughter?" "Oh, India Irie." Like, oh, okay, yeah, I've heard of her. Acoustic Soul is a kick-ass record.
Yeah.
So, and I was, you know, apparently I only have it on CD. I was going to have that be my record tonight with that story, but I only have the CD.
Awesome.
But yeah, it's funny. And kind of chuckled about, Hester, my wife, chuckled about the fact that, like, in Atlanta, if you're in the garment / movie peripheral business, you're like one step away from somebody famous at all times. And usually it's Tyler Perry.
Awesome.
So, anyway.
Yeah. Did you see the, have you watched the mechanic video, the Ruth Franklin mechanic video yet?
I don't know that one specifically. Stitch Right posted like 18 of those videos.
Yeah, there was, I didn't catch it when it was originally going around, but I did happen to watch it, which I actually was going to be, my tip for the night was to go watch that. And if you're feeling froggy, take off your, like, for beginners who want to like dabble in messing around and cleaning and fixing your own machine, take your looper block and your looper, take that off and clean it and then put it back. But check out that video if you've ever, even if you're not going to touch your own machine, it's cool to watch. And she gives like a basic general, like kind of little tune-up tips, but then she actually shows you how to take the entire face off. The video is like 3 hours long. I need a gun, but it was fun to watch. Yeah.
Is it on that Stitch Right page that he put together?
It's on YouTube. I don't remember whether it's on the Stitch Right page. But yeah, I mean, all of that, all the resources those guys have made available are awesome. And I did notice that he put up a little thing about Bonnie, which was awesome. Because it was funny, random thing. The looper block up. Yeah. Oh, I thought it was funny. I noticed that, I don't know, I don't want to say that it was destiny or anything, but before I had even bought a machine, I like went to some random Chainstitch forum. It wasn't even a Facebook group or anything. And I kind of just looked at and picked out a random person who was like still active after all these years. And one of them happened to be Bonnie. And I reached out to her and we had a little correspondence back and forth for a while, not knowing that who she was. And she was positive and really cool. So I thought that was pretty neat. She's a pretty cool lady.
Yeah. No, it's the production of those is so analog, like the little flip cards with what part of the lesson you're in, and it's awesome. I agree that I cannot watch more than about 20 or 30 minutes at a time. But it's amazing. I mean, she's so thorough.
Yeah.
And the one that I was watching, which I think I was kind of skipping through, but she did one where she was talking about Phil.
Mm-hmm.
And she's got that fucking motor that we tell everybody to throw in the trash.
Yeah. Because
she starts going and she's at like 3,800 RPMs and just going crazy.
Yep. And I don't know, just pulleys as well. You know, they got the honking pulleys on them. I just changed the pulley on the motor I have for the new machine because it was still 90, which I hate. So had to dumb it down. But luckily for me, I have I've got an industrial sewing machine mechanic, one of the only in the area, actually. This part of the state is right next to our production spot, literally next door.
Wow.
So yeah, we see him all the time. And so I went in and bothered him and was able to get a pulley and a V-belt out of him too. So
nice. Yeah, I just built the table for that Singer that's been in a box forever.
Yeah, I love it.
And so I ordered the motor. It'll be here tomorrow, and I guess I figured that way I'll actually have to look at it every day. And even if I just put one piece on every day,
Yeah.
it's better than it sitting in its Pelican case, never being touched.
Right. And yeah, it'll be able to call out to you every time you walk by.
Well, and I also built the table at 38 inches.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm a big, tall guy. But, you know, we've had conversations in the past about, like, hunching over your machine. So it is a stormtrooper suit, yes. And the face that's underneath the helmet is, like, porn-tastic. So at another show, I'll take the helmet off. But I like the idea of bringing the table up a little bit so that I'm working closer to my face.
Yeah.
And I made it so that I can cut the legs off if I don't like it. So that'll be my experiment moving forward. And then this last table right here will be gone soon too.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's like, it is important. And sometimes, I don't know, it kind of like changes. It just depends on how my posture is or whatever. Sometimes I will, those Herman Miller chairs, they go down very far. So
Yeah.
It's kind of nice to be able to just be eye level and not wrench your back into a zillion bits.
I was halfway considering for this last table doing an adjustable height table. And I was even wondering, like, I wonder what it would be like to put a pedal like on my Mero machine is a stand-up machine.
Yeah.
And I was like, I wonder what that would be like to try a stand-up chain stitch machine. It could be kind of weird. So, I don't know. People need to order some big projects from me. I'm getting bored and doing dumb shit.
I've had some very interesting small projects. You know how I feel about small projects, but yeah, I've had some of that going on. But I also have giant banners and stuff that I have to do as well. So yeah, waiting for some more exciting stuff. I had a guy come in for a varsity jacket that a repeat customer who wants to make one for a friend of his. So that's kind of cool. That was something that I didn't expect. So that's something different that I haven't done in a while. I'm excited about that.
Yeah. I got an interesting jacket, and this is unresolved. This just happened to me in the last couple hours. I got a jacket request for a Middle Eastern battle flag from like the 1700s. And Hester and I were having a conversation about, like, is this going to be something that is objectionable to some people, like a Proud Boys flag would be to certain other people?
Right.
Which is not something I've ever had to deal with. Like copyright, we talk about all the time, but like, I guess we've talked about some Native American imagery, a couple other things that are, you know, problematic is the term we usually use. So I actually reached out to some friends to kind of fact check what's going on with this flag, because the internet was kind of like, here are the dates that this flag was used. End of sentence.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which it's a really cool design, so I hope that it is unobjectionable.
Yeah. But you get a lot of people who want things, and it's good to have a network of people that you can reach out to and be like, yo, done this. Yeah. God forbid you do something, and I don't know, leave it there. God forbid you do something.
Well, I mean, I think part of it is that, you know, these are things that we put our energy in that represent us and that we want to bring joy to the world. And I certainly would not do any kind of 3%er jackets or anything like that. I don't believe in that. So, you know, it's good to always fact check what you're working on, know your customers, what they're asking for. There's certainly people I don't want to work with. And one of the reasons I run my own business is I can tell those people to go fuck off.
That's the end of the day. That's the best part.
Yeah.
For me.
All right. So let's talk records. What do you got this week?
Yeah, mine's got a long, drawn-out story. So this week, in honor of, well, nothing in particular, is Samurai Samba by the band the Yellowjackets. When I was in college, as a music major, I was just obsessed with jazz, and these guys like a weird thing. But my professor, John Nerges, he's like this insane piano player. Every semester, he would always have us doing like at least every performance, I should say. We would always have like one Yellowjackets tune that we would crank, and it just sounded awesome. So yeah, I don't know. It's weird, not usually something I would suggest, but it's definitely a little secret pleasure of mine. I've got a shitload of Yellowjackets records. Um, Whenever I see them out in the wild, even if I already have it, I usually pick them up because they're cool to me.
Nice.
Yeah, Samurai Samba. Check it out. Let me know what you think. Yeah, I don't know.
That'll be on my playlist for tomorrow for sure.
It's gonna be good. You're gonna be surprised.
All right, I'm into it. I almost picked Madlib, some of that acid jazz, like the really early stuff with a lot of the old players on it. For some reason, that was in my head. But instead, it's hard for me to believe that this record is 30 years old. Because I remember being in college when it came out and thinking, holy shit, this is a good record.
Yeah. Nice.
We all know this record. It's awesome. It's crazy. I will do a slight plug to say that I watched the Amazon Plus documentary, which is a stage performance filmed by Spike Jonze of their memoir for the Beastie Boys.
Okay.
It was weird because there was a lot of information in that I didn't know, which was spectacular. And at one point, they make it clear that they're reading off teleprompters, and they have a guest pop up at a certain point, and they supercut like 15 or 20 different guests doing the same thing. So there were a lot of these performances of the same thing. Yeah, that's right. That's how my math works too. But it was so dry and stale and the opposite of what I think of the energy of the Beastie Boys that I couldn't listen to Beastie Boys for like a month.
Yeah.
It was a weird reaction. Like the stories were amazing. They were basically giving a PowerPoint presentation about themselves. So definitely listen to Check Your Head by the Beastie Boys. It's fucking amazing, front to back. Apparently, I didn't realize this, but after Paul's Boutique, their career was in the total shithole, and they reinvented themselves with this album. They never went away from me, so that was a surprise.
Yeah.
But it's a great record. Watch the Apple Plus documentary with a grain of salt. Like, it's good information, but it's kind of like reading Encyclopedia Britannica. You know, like the information's in there, but it's kind of dry.
Boutique was like that record. Out of all their stuff, that record was my number one for them. That record is so fucking crazy. Actually, the only record of theirs that I own is Paul's Boutique. And
yeah, my brother-in-law, when he lived in Shanghai, apparently there are these painters, like on this one street, that for $500 or something like that, they'll paint you a 6x6 canvas of anything. Like photorealistic, you give them a photo and you come back like a couple days later and it's a 6x6 canvas that's perfect. And he gave them the cover of Paul's Boutique and has a 6x6 painting hanging in his house, and it's unbelievably amazing.
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Old stuff.
Anyway, so I mentioned it at the beginning for people who joined in later. We both got so busy today, we forgot to announce the show, which, I'm glad everybody showed up. They remembered. But we also forgot to ask questions. So if anybody has any questions, throw them in the comments. I feel like they always cascade once the first one comes in. Did you want to start off with a tech tip for tonight?
What was I messing around with? Yeah. Oh, I'll just touch on what we were talking about earlier. Because I don't want anyone to get discouraged, any of like the newbies or anything. Changing the pulley on your motor. I know that some people get some in the console with the dial or any of that other shit. they might be a little confusing, or some people have motors that just go way too fast, and I don't want anyone to just give up. So if anyone out there is listening and you're frustrated with your motor, dumb that pulley down. I mean, I know that a couple of mine have come standard with 90 millimeter, but they do make a lot smaller universal pulleys that you can, it's even just as simple as it's just like a nut and a couple washers, or if you need to get pliers on the inner side of it, it's really simple to change them out. So don't be discouraged.
Yeah, and going from like a 55, is that what you're running?
I think I'm close. Yeah, I think I'm somewhere at like 40 or 45.
45, yeah. So when you change your pulley, Adam's exactly right. It's super easy to pull it off. But depending on your adjustment range on your motor, you may need to get a new belt.
Yeah.
And Adam, why don't you run down sort of the different types of belts and sort of the pluses and minuses?
Well, there's only one belt that you guys ever need to know about, and that's a V belt. So buy a new pulley. It says fucking V belt pulley right on the box. So, yep. They're very easy to find, very easy to pay for. They're like $6, and they never fuck off. So you're good. Yeah, I mean, people run the leather belts. I don't know why. Maybe you're a fucking masochist. The staple will mess up, and then you got to like clip it. It's fucking annoying. Adjustments, that's ridiculous. And then poly belts. Come on, man. Poly belts are for boneheads. That shit'll snap, or you got to fucking sit. I only say this because I went to a market event when I was in a bind, and I had some of that shit, and I was running the machine, and it snapped. And then I had to find somebody with a fucking lighter, because I don't smoke or any of that shit. I don't have a lighter on me. Got to find that, and then you got to sit there like a jackass trying to burn two ends of plastic together. And then how long do you wait for that stuff to dry or harden, before you can actually use the thing? So if you don't wait long enough and you put it on and it snaps again, now this is all this time that you could be live stitching. So if not, then you just look like an asshole because you're trying to fix this machine. So don't fuck with leather belts. Don't fuck with poly belts. Come at me in the DMs if you actually respect either of those, but I don't. So it's V belt. And plain and simple, folks, the pulley on the bottom, think of it this way. If you've got a smaller pulley on the motor, it'll go slow. If you have a larger pulley on your machine, it'll go slow. So if you look like the Singer 114s, have two slots. One is a smaller one on your hand wheel, and one is a bigger one. And if you go in the bigger one, it'll go slower, but smaller pulley on the motor will also help you go slow. So
yeah, and I will say that I have also tried all three of those belts, and my complaint about both the leather and the poly one is that they have a little bit of stretch, and so they don't offer the grip. So what I was finding is in certain situations, I would step on the pedal, the motor would spin, and I'd have to like kiss the top of the pulley on the machine to start it spinning, and then it would spin fine. But if I slowed down and stopped again, I would have to do that again. And if you keep adjusting them tighter and tighter and tighter, then they start binding. So with the V-belt, and I want to say this because I just had to explain this to someone, take a piece of rope or twine, something like that, and you wrap it around the pulley of your motor. You wrap it around the pulley on your machine, bring it together, cut it, and then measure that single piece of rope or twine, whatever you have. Take it with you to the auto parts store if there's any question, because that's the length that you need to buy your belt in. Also, most automotive belts run one size up than what we use on these machines. So when you go in, this is my personal experience, don't try to explain to them what you're doing, because they don't have any idea about machines and whatever. I just walk in and say, I need a belt, a V-belt. Can I come back there and look? And after, because they're going to ask you what your Oldsmobile is it. Like, they don't know. So it's a 3/8 belt, and there's only a handful of things that run that on a car. So that's what you'll be up against, is a lot of people will be trying to sell you like a bigger belt.
Yeah, and if you need a link, uh, I got a couple places you can get them online. Just hit me up, shoot me a message. I'll send it over to you. Yeah, I had to dig. I went to my local hardware store, and they literally took me in the back, like dark dungeon of the basement in there to find one, and they actually had one, which was sick because again they're cheap.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I ordered one off Amazon, which I had to order three to get the right size. And then I ended up just going to Napa up the street, and it was in the back in a bunch of weird belts that they never sell, and that was it.
yep,
So I think both Adam and I agree that V belts give you a much better contact with all the pulleys. It doesn't stretch, so when you get the right size and you adjust the tension on your motor and you tighten it up, you can tighten it to be perfect. My thing with the poly belt was, as I tightened it, that poly belt would just stretch.
yeah,
And so I didn't like the way it felt.
yeah. And I've been running belt on my one machine for like 3 years now. So like you're good.
Yeah.
You're gonna chill.
Yeah.
So
I think 18 months for all of my belts, and I've never had a problem with any of them.
yeah, yeah.
So, tech tip for me.
Yeah.
Uh, oh boy. Only use leather belts. Maybe her work will finally start looking good. Man, if you haven't seen it, check out that bone jaw jacket. Did you see that today?
So good.
Oh
Yes.
man, that rocked my world so hard this morning when I saw it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I love kind of monochromatic work. So that was really amazing. Yeah, I think my tech tip, which I just had this conversation with the person that was in here, is don't over oil your machine. Get your little needle dropper, put in your single drops. I know people love to squirt oil all over these machines. And there are some places where that's okay because it's just going to drip off the bottom and get all over your pedal. But if you've got a needle nose dropper, and I don't mean the zoom spout, I mean it actually has a needle at the end of it. A drop here, a drop there. Adam and I have talked about it a lot. We use our machine 6 to 8 to 12 hours a day, 36 hours a day if you're Adam. And you can hear it. You can hear when your machine needs to be oiled, and you can put a couple of drops in just the right places. You don't always need to oil the whole machine. And on mine, I can instantly hear the difference when I drop the oil in the right place.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
be smart. Don't spot clean your projects because there's oil drops on them. Because you put too much on the machine.
Yeah. That's funny. In the words of Ruth Franklin, like we were talking about earlier, don't over oil the machine because it's only when you go to start working on that white jacket or that white garment that something's going to happen. And you're using like stainless lily white or any of that other stuff, stainless sewing machine oil, that's fine. That's going to evaporate. You know what isn't? All the shit on your machine if it's not clean. So chill out, use it sparingly. Like I said, we're on the things, or like Huck said, we're on the machines all day, every day. And A, you can hear stuff, but B, I'm on a schedule. I just oil my machines every Monday and we're good. That's it. I just stay on a Monday schedule. They get a couple drops every Monday and then we're good. So,
yeah. Well, and also I know that a couple people that have new console machines talk about how stiff they are. And I've experienced that on those too. Yeah. And on this machine that came into my shop on Saturday, I actually threw some marine grade grease in between the handle and the stem that comes down from the machine. What a world of difference. I mean, instantly, it was so much smoother. I was thinking it was just that the gears weren't broken in, but that made a ton of difference. So if you're on a machine that feels stiff, maybe drop the handle and throw a little grease up there and spin it around and see what it feels like. Adam, what kind of oil are you using?
yeah, I mean, the lily white, you can get it from anywhere. I think even Madeira has it. Actually, the needle tool that Huck's talking about, I mean, you can get those anywhere, but Madeira sells both the oil and that, which is great because it's got like a little pen nerd pop thing, which is fun, but it just, you can pinpoint. That helps you just put a couple drops on and not be oiling the whole machine. But yeah, you want a stainless sewing machine oil. If you were only to type that in, that would be what gets you. But I think that thing that Huck's showing is freaking like $6. Yep, you got that. But even that with the zoom spout, so the little spout comes out, and you're able to kind of pinpoint where you want that oil to go.
I thought this was the jam, but by the time you squeeze enough oil out of here to get pressure to go all this way, you're dropping too much oil. And also I realized that, like, I don't ever need to be this far away on the Singer. Like, I thought it was cool for a minute. I got out the old school oil can with the little thumb thing, like the metal part. And that was basically like pouring it all over the place.
Yeah. That and the freaking oil will go all over the can, and then it's all over your table or all over wherever you have it sit. Yeah.
This even has a clip.
Yes.
I can stick it in my pocket if I wanted to. I mean,
yes,
right there. Yeah, and I think, it's between $3 and $6. I have one sitting next to all of my machines.
Yeah, and there's the oil is so cheap, and you just keep, just take the top off and refill it.
Yeah. I don't know if that's fancy, but no, don't use motor oil.
Yeah, I mean, that I don't know why people recommend shit like that, but it's like goofy. But yeah, not motor oil, obviously. No WD-40. You just want your basic sewing machine oil, and you could throw some kind of like stainless grease on the gears if you wanted.
Yeah, and the reason, just so we're clear, the reason you don't want to put motor oil on your machine is because inevitably you will get a drip or two on your project.
Yes.
And trying to clean that off is fucking terrible. Like, even this air quote stainless oil is not stainless. You need to do a little bit of work to clean it off, but it's doable.
Yeah. And like I said, it's mainly 9 times out of 10 because your fucking machine is dirty. Like, if at the very least, if you're going to get on a schedule and maintain your machine, like every Monday, just give it a little touch up or just oil it. I've got 1 or 2 bandanas laying around that are just wipe it down. Just get all the like dirt and grime off of it. It doesn't have to be like a full kerosene bath or putting it in a sonic cleaner. You don't have to do all that all the time. But the oil, most of that will evaporate, so you don't have to go too crazy with it. But if you've got dirt on it, yeesh, yeah, the machine needs to be clean. So if you were just doing regular, I mean, like if I do maintenance, if I'm oiling it on Monday, that's when I'll use compressed air to blow out the needle tube and the nipple and stuff like that. Just regular stuff. Check the nipples to just throw some air through it just to get the lint out, and the looper. Just throw some oil in the looper and kind of run it a little bit to get any lint and stuff out of there. Just hit those areas. You can make a little checklist and then just every week kind of hit it if you're using it heavily. I mean, if you're not using it heavily, then you don't have to be so militant about it, but it's a good habit to get into.
Yeah, I usually just give mine a wipe with a rag.
Yeah.
The day after I oil it. And then periodically, if I see a little bit, like a lot of times when you're starting to work, you'll put that needle in the first time, and you'll get that tiny ring where the nipple touches your fabric because the oil has all come down to that point. I'll back it out, clean the machine up, just give it a wipe. And then I change my nipple and needle quite a bit, especially because I'm going back and forth between Moss on this machine. And so every time I pull a nipple off, I have this little floss tool that looks kind of like a toilet brush, but it's super tiny for going between your teeth, I guess. And I use that to clean out the nipple. And then I have compressed air that I blow down the the needle bar shaft, and sometimes a pipe cleaner.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, compressed air is probably my main thing other than wiping oil off. I don't just spend a lot of time cleaning my machine. Oh.
This is
he wants to know if you have a public bathroom.
Yeah, no, this is one of those times. This is one of those times where I'm trying to keep it cool and not go to jail for murder. But we got a big houseless population. Obviously, I'm a cool guy. You know, sometimes I'll let people have some work, give them a couple bucks, keep a list. But yeah, most of the time I'm not having it, which is good because I'm not in the shop that much. So it's kind of okay. But just keeping it cool. Sorry, guys. On the curtains so that no one knew that I was in here. But
that's the price of being a baller and running your own business.
Yeah. Yep.
All right. Well, if anybody else had any questions, I feel like we kind of went through those that were posted in the comments. I mentioned at the beginning of the show, I said we had one more slot for the patch exchange, and about 6 people reached out. So ironically, or 5 people. So ironically, I still have one more. Yeah, go ahead. I still have one more slot. So if anybody still wants to get in on the patch exchange, I have 1 slot left. It's not due for 2 weeks. So reach out and let me know if you want to do it. And I think that's pretty much all the announcements we had to talk about this week. We can. Oh, there it is.
All right.
The slot just got filled, so we now no longer have any more patch exchange slots. And Thread Tripper is the partner, so you two will be working together.
Cool.
So there you go. We'll keep it in Cali.
Glad to hear it.
Yep. Hey, sidebar. Something I am actually enjoying, which is not necessarily Chainstitch related, but is making created. There's an amazing documentary on Industrial Light and Magic on Disney Plus. And it talks about Star Wars because that's how ILM was started, but they spend a lot of time in the model shop just showing people making things. I highly recommend it. If you're not a Star Wars fan, maybe skip to episode 3 and start there, where they're talking about Indiana Jones, E.T., Close Encounters, Poltergeist. There's a particular effect in Poltergeist at the end when the house vanishes that they show how they did it, and my mind was perfectly blown away with how they made that happen. And then it gets into CGI, so I'm less interested. But episode like 3 and 4, highly recommend it. It's called Light and Magic on Disney Plus.
Cool.
So, okay. All right, I think we're wrapping up a little bit early tonight.
Yeah.
Which is good because I have to go do my second introduction of the bunny and the dog.
Got it. Sounds like fun.
All right. Well, thanks so much, man. It's always good to see you. And oh boy, here we go.
Oh, that is a tangent that we can go off on.
You want to spend 5 minutes? I got another 5 minutes.
Yeah, we can do 5 minutes real quick.
Okay.
And I just told Roy that I still need 15 minutes until I one. But so if we do 5 and then I dip out early, he'll have to wait for another day to see me. So
it's cold.
Yeah.
All right, Adam, start us off. Let's talk about pricing.
There are different markets and different economies based on where you are. And there are certain things that cost a certain amount of money. And just like any, what I'll say is this, you don't necessarily need to look at everyone else's prices. Like, you can do your research and find out what people are charging for certain things. And that's fine. But what I would suggest is, what are you worth an hour? right? So what are you worth an hour, and what are you willing to get paid to work on a certain project? Now, whether that is like size or how long it's going to take you, sometimes you'll price something high and do the job. Sometimes you'll price something low and it doesn't take you that long. You know, there's ways that it makes up. But what is the dollar amount that will get me off the chain stitch machine? You know, so whether, let's say, $50 an hour. Like if someone came to me right now and was like, Adam, you can underwater basket weave for $50 an hour. Okay, so I would go do that full time. But that's kind of like, okay, so that's what I'm going to do for chain stitch. I know that people do their pricing a little bit differently, and it does work, but just make sure that you are realistic about it, because some projects will take longer than what you quote. Some projects, like I understand, like Huck will do stuff by size, and it makes sense because I think it's easier to, time doesn't necessarily matter in that, which I think helps with quoting. But having a, another little tip or trick is having a price list, so that when someone is inquiring about it, or when someone goes to reach you through your contact form, they'll already have in their mind kind of what it is. So if you have X price plus, let them know that it starts there, and then based on their idea, you can kind of go from there. Kind of weeds out the bozos, so that the people who are contacting you already know what they're in for, and you can kind of go from there. As long as you leave it open-ended with a little plus, you can kind of, your oyster, you can do whatever you want.
Yeah, I agree with all of that. And I went from trying to not give out prices because I wanted to, obviously prices are different on every project. In my little, if you go to huckmade.com, there's a price page that talks about my theory. But basically it's stitch count, thread color changes, details, and design, size. Like those 4 things, and speed, when do you need it? So those 5 things are kind of, for me, that's the formula. But having to explain that to somebody every time was a real pain in the ass and a time suck. So what I did is I created what Adam was talking about, is I created like a matrix based on size. And essentially it's $15 an inch in the largest dimension, starting at 4-inch minimum. So it's easy for someone to call me and say, you know, I'll answer that in a second about stitch count, but it's easy for someone to call and say, I want a 6-inch patch. And for me to go, okay, times that by 15, that's your base price. Are you interested or not? Then we can get into, okay, well, actually what you're asking, here's the stitch count part. If somebody wants that, something that's, let's say, an oval of felt, they don't want a second back felt, and they want essentially a line drawing on it that's not filled. So in my mind, the stitch count is much lower because I'm not doing all that fill work. It's less time. I'm not going to charge them $85 for that patch. But if it's 17 colors doing a gradient on 6 inches with double or triple felt, which I just did, that's obviously going to be a lot more money. So my goal, and I actually updated my contact form today. And again, if you're interested, go to my website and look at the RFQ form. I thought I was so clever and had listed like every possible dumbass question that I have to send an email to clarify. But I've realized as I've worked super hard on my website that I'm getting a lot of hits on Google for embroidery near me and Atlanta embroidery. And so people aren't taking the time to look at what kind of embroidery I do. So I get a lot of requests for like a 3-inch Pearl Jam patch or something like that, like weird shit like that. So I had to add questions on my contact form that said, what kind of embroidery do you want? Vintage, handmade chain stitch, vintage, handmade chenille, or modern computerized embroidery? Because I do that. So anyway, and I know that the beginning of this question, I know that this person in particular does computer embroidery and handwork. So obviously time is different for both of those 2 things. But anyway, sorry, rambling. That's my answer, is create something that you can go back to and look at, so that you don't get confused, because in the beginning I'd be like, oh, well, I charged $45 for that patch. This is kind of the same. I don't want to be too expensive because I really want to do this. And then I'd get into a patch and I was like, fuck, that took me 2 days for $45. So creating some guidelines for yourself, whether it's based on size, color, intricacy, whatever, $15 an inch was what works for my brain.
Yeah.
So
cool. Well, yep. Yeah. If has any other questions about it or they want to chat about pricing, definitely hit either one of us up. We can go into depth on that. I could talk about it all night.
Or you could dip out 5 minutes early and avoid that conversation. All right. Well, anybody, there were a couple of people that joined us late. Please go back and watch this riveting episode. It's so exciting. Talking about oiling and awesome records. Yellowjackets. First thing in the morning, I'm going to be on that.
Yeah.
So
85. So.
Yeah. And I think next show, maybe what about doing it from the production center? Give us a look at what's going on in the other building.
Yeah, we could do that. I'll be probably neck deep in a giant project that's probably going to kill me. So.
All right.
Yeah. Well, thanks,
right.
everybody. Yeah. Love all of you. We'll catch you next time. Huck, as always, thanks for your time.
Yep, likewise.
Catch you on the next one.
All right. Thanks, everybody. We'll talk to you soon.